Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome once again to another live stream. You may recognize from this morning's property quorum, Chris Gilsenan, who's from Route Home, a man who's no stranger to building a small property empire and then selling it on to somebody else. His focus is very much on the domestic market, specifically, I would say HMOs and similar. But today he's going to teach me something which I'm actually quite keen on to find out more about it, which is all about lease options as a strategy. So, Chris, welcome once again.
Hi. Hiya. To caveat that, I'm not going to teach you all about lease options
A
today.
little bit. But I could spell it. That's about as far as it went before.
Yes, yeah. Well, as I do a little bit of moonlighting on Reddit from time to time on some of the property forums, just poking a few people, but also giving some guidance. And a question popped up the other day, and I thought it'd be really useful to bring it into this particular forum.
All right.
And the question was about, well, a house has been on the market for 9 months, 12 months, whatever. It was a while, and it'd been getting offers, but clearly he hadn't taken the price that was being offered. And it's like, well, okay, then that's telling you something. That's telling you something about the vendor's circumstances. So not in every circumstance is a vendor going to be able to take a slightly lower offer or whatever. In many circumstances, vendors have done some silly things or things that have mean that they can't take a lower rate for their property. There may be a negative equity through no fault of their own. They may have equity stripped the property, getting mortgages back in the day when we had Northern Rock, who are offering you 120% mortgages and the kitchen sink to throw at it.
Absolutely.
It was wild. Yeah, it threw a lot of people into negative equity. Or there are landlords who have taken out equity across the whole of the portfolio repeatedly and left it in a position where actually they now owe the bank a load of money, and there's not a chance in hell they could sell it for less than asking. Probably they need over. The beauty of the lease option strategy is it's got a few elements to it, a few moving parts, but the way I liken it to buyers is it's buy now, setting the price now, but paying later, delaying the sale. So it actually allows the price of the property to escalate over time. But it means that the buyer can come in and offer the seller a price for their property today and can actually close on the transaction today to allow the seller to move on. It doesn't work in every circumstance. In some circumstances, the buyer needs the money now. And if the buyer does need the money, if the seller needs the money now, and if the seller needs the money now, then it may not work. But if they can structure a delayed sale, it's basically a delayed sale. It means that the seller can potentially walk away with more money for the property than they even thought they were asking for.
I'm still confused by it.
So, okay, I'll take you through an example. So,
okay, good.
We had we got marketing running all the time, and a lady got in touch with us. She had a second house, effectively a second house. What had happened is she had a first house and then moved for work. So she's moved to work. She's now got a second house, which was a primary residence, but the first house hadn't sold. Now, the reason the first house hadn't sold is because you may remember this back a while ago, between the 2004 and 2007, before the crash, property prices were a bit on the up.
They were peaking.
She bought at a high, and then the price dipped. The market crashed. So
right.
She was effectively in negative equity. She bought it for maybe 110, and it was worth 90 at the time. So
right.
if she'd have walked away from that property, even taking the market value for that property at that point in time, she'd have owed the bank a load of money.
Well, of course she would. Yes, of course, which is the difference from the height and the slump, right?
Yeah. No one wants to be in that position. That's a shitty position to be in. However, it was a noose around her neck at that point. So I think by the time she got in touch with us, she had been in this position for 9 months. So she's paying rates and higher rates on a council tax and all the other things, as well as the mortgage on the property in a place that she's not living in. So it's costing her a substantial amount of her monthly income
Right.
to have this second house on her books. So she's now in a position where if she's going into debt because of this property, but if she then sold the property for a loss, she'd be in even more debt.
Well,
So
absolutely. A different kind of millstone around her neck.
yes, yeah. So we came along. We offered her, I think we offered her about 120 for the property, but delayed the sale for 10 years.
So hang on. 10 years?
10 years. So there's a couple
Oh,
of
no,
moving
hang on,
parts.
hang on. Let me just. My brain cells are gradually clicking into place. So what you're saying is you take on effectively the mortgage or
We did.
anything to do with it. You take on the property,
Mhm.
but she doesn't receive payment.
We cover the costs of the mortgage that was going out of her property, and for that, we have exclusive use of that property. So, in layman terms, what we do is rent it out. So we are benefiting from that and have set a price to purchase at some point in the future.
Which
That-
includes the mortgage payments up until that point.
yes, yes. We've
So
been
therefore,
babysitting those mortgage
her
payments.
mortgage company, I'm just ticking boxes off. So her mortgage company remains satisfied.
Mhm.
This is a I'd never heard of this sort of thing before.
Right.
This is
Okay.
what I've heard of leasing and I've heard of renting.
Hmm.
I've never heard of delayed sale at all.
Yeah.
So
So
10 years. So the
the
sale actually won't take place for another 10 years, but you'll receive benefit in kind because you'll have got the rental payments.
that's right. She's receiving benefits because we're paying down her mortgage, capital and interest mortgage, so that's getting paid off for her. So the actual capital pot that she walks away with at the end is better. Um, and yeah, we're benefiting in that interim as well. Now, the reason it's called an option is it's an option to purchase. We're not actually obliged to purchase it at the end of those 10 years. We just have the option to purchase it within that 10-year period at any point in that 10-year period, but it could run for 10 years and then we
Well,
could
then
exercise the option.
let's play devil's advocate. And we get to the end of 10 years and you,
Yes.
for whatever reason, decide not to take up that option.
Hmm.
Is she then still saddled with the final payments for the house?
In terms of being saddled with it, yes. So what would happen is the property would revert to her, or the option would expire. So the property is hers again. There's no restriction on the property, and yeah, we have no claim on it. In theory, we could carry on renting it from her, or we could carry on with some sort of setup. But yeah, there would have to be some sort of renegotiation. But the
But
in
it could but the relationship could run and run, but the
hmm,
form of that relationship would change
yes.
at the end of the initial period, yes?
Yes. The option to purchase would expire at that point. So there may be some elements that may continue to exist, but the opportunity for us to purchase at that set price will have passed.
Will the thing pa will the, what do you call it, lease? Is it
Mhm.
a lease? Would that mechanism pay only the interest-bearing elements of the mortgage, or would it actually pay some of the capital as well?
It's all negotiable. Depends what you can negotiate and what
Good
what
lord.
the vendor wants to happen. It starts effectively with a blank piece of paper.
But
Um,
yes, but it's a mechanism I'd never considered.
yeah, yeah. It
Wow.
provides. It's quite versatile. It's quite versatile. So obviously we're setting the price points for the option strike price at that 10-year point or whatever point in the future at a rate that's beneficial to us. There is some hedging in there that we think we know where the market is going
Well,
to
there'd
go,
have to be. The very
but we
nature
don't
of it is it's a kind of gamble,
to
but
a
it's
point,
actually
yeah.
quite a safe gamble in a way
We don't need
because
to exercise the option.
you don't need to exercise the option. You can still gain benefit in at the end of the period by just continuing to rent, given a renegotiation, of course. But the
Mhm.
likelihood, as I would have thought, they would continue because all they would have to do is take, uh, gosh, I'd never considered this before.
Well, funnily enough, options have been around in the world of land for a long, long time. But this version of options used in the residential markets, residential real estate markets, it's kind of new. I think it's been brought over from the States not that long ago, around the 90s
Okay,
and early 2000s.
but it's been a long-standing thing in the States, is it?
It's been a long-standing thing for to take an option over a piece of land in this country for centuries. Yeah, it's just never really been. So it's been around in the commercial world for a long time. It's just never really been applied in the same way in the residential sector, which is probably why not many people have heard of it. Not many
So
people are landowners.
could you convert that house to an HMO, rent those rooms out, gain the benefit from that, pay down the portion of the mortgage for 10 years? She no longer has the burden, etc. Her mortgage burden is reduced by that amount of payment. And at the
Yes,
end of that
sure.
10 years, you'd have to put it back, or
Well, it depends. Are you going to purchase at the end of the 10 years? And it depends what you've agreed in the paperwork. Yeah, yeah. So the
definitely.
devil's in the detail, just like in anything. But these options are hugely versatile because they don't necessarily need to run for a long period of time. You can use them to control assets on for a short period of time. So you may look at a project and think, well, okay, well, I'd like to get into this project, but I don't necessarily have the money to put a mortgage on it right now or to purchase it outright. But I do have the development funds. I do have the 20 grand, 30 grand, whatever to turn around a house.
Right.
How about if I strike an option with the owner of the property? So I have a controlling interest over this particular property for the next 6 to 9 months. We agree the price that I'm going to purchase it at after or within that 6 to 9 month window. So I have control over this property. I can then go in, refurb the property, exercise the option, and purchase once the renovations have been done. So it frees up cash flow. So there are different ways of playing it. Yeah, there are a
Do
lot
you use this technique yourself often?
of it. Yeah, it's such a versatile technique. It's not one that I'd probably look on an internet forum to try and learn about. I would go to someone who is a specialist who can give you lots of training on how to use these because there's hundreds of different ways to apply these in
I
principle.
thought it was a lot more hamstrung than that. This is a whole layer of sophistication and complexity. I didn't know that there was available, because there's lots of different ways you could play this.
I think the really beautiful way of how to look at options is it's if you take a step back and you're really looking to try and solve the vendor's issue. So the vendor's normally selling, and the fact that the property hasn't sold, there's a challenge there. There's some sort of challenge,
Yes.
and asking good, high quality questions to get to the root cause of what that issue is, and then having the tools in your toolbox to be able to construct a whole solution around that. That's where it takes your investing level from here so all the way up to here. It's a very um, different skill set, but
Wow.
the nub of it is how do you help solve people's problems, and the more thought that you apply to that, the more creative you will start to become, and the more abundant you will see the world in terms of the opportunities that are presented to you.
I mean, in the case you were referring to, you're saying that a person perhaps doesn't have the wherewithal, or rather it's quoting a pinch on the rest of their life, and what you're doing is effectively taking the foot off the neck of the person involved, which
Absolutely.
then
Yeah.
gives them freedom. They don't lose the asset per se,
Nope.
and
Still in that name.
the final agreement, which could take place at the end of the term, could potentially net them some money as well.
Hmm. Yep. So just turning that thought process around on its head for that particular vendor that I helped. Her circumstances were, well, I'm going to take a hit. have to take 90 grand. I think it was on the market for 90 grand, and my mortgage was purchased it at 110, so I was still going to have to owe the bank some money. Turned around to actually, I'm going to make a profit off this, and someone else is dealing with my problem for me for the next 10 years and pay my mortgage down. That's kind of polar opposites in how we approach
Who knew
it.
that you could turn such a apparently desperate situation into not just something positive, but something that actually helps your business and her mental health? It's quite something, really.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Well,
Yeah.
look, thank you, Chris, as ever, educating me. Chris is not a spring chicken when it comes to property investment. He has been in the game for quite some time, and has built a profitable business through coming up with and investigating techniques such as these. So I would say watch out over the next few weeks, because we'll be investigating other areas where you can be flexible about the way you apply stuff in such a way that everybody comes out smelling of roses. Chris, thank you once again for helping me understand still further. And I wish everyone, of course, a safe and prosperous week, and of course, good mental health. Bye bye now.